Hi again, and welcome to this week's episode of Canadian Profits TV. My name is Dave Dubeau, and this week for our business breakthrough, we're going to be talking about another positioning idea, which is self-appointment. For our real estate tip, we're going to be talking about the power of leverage as a profit center. And for our mindset minute, we're going to talk about how powerful gratitude can be. So stay tuned. Okay, so for our business breakthrough, I'm going to be talking about positioning again, but this time it has to do with self-appointment. What does self-appointment mean? That means that you really don't have to wait for anybody else to tell you that you're an expert in order to proclaim yourself as an expert. I mean, really, there are certain professions where you do gradually build up and work up over time to create different credentials and different levels of accreditation and that sort of thing. But the long and short of it is, for most of us of our customers really don't know the difference between that and anything else anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So what I'm trying to say is, go out and grab it. If you are, compared to your customers and your clients and your prospects, you are the expert in whatever it is that you do. So go out and call yourself the expert. Again, you don't have to wait for somebody to appoint you as the expert to claim yourself as one. What are some powerful ways of doing that? Public speaking is a very, very good way to do it. Gets you out there, lets people see that you know what you're talking about. You become an expert. You can write a book. It's a little bit challenging for some people, but that's an awesome way to become an expert. You can put on your own web TV show, and it'll be broadcast to thousands, perhaps millions of people, and be seen as the expert. There's all sorts of different ways to be seen as the expert. So if you take a look at a lot of the books that are out there, a lot of the books that have been written, best-selling books, especially when it comes to self-help, personal finance, that sort of thing. For example, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It started off kind of not that strong, then it zoomed, it took off after he was featured on Oprah. Well, what are his credentials, really? What are his academic credentials to talk or write about personal finance? He's a self-made millionaire, that's about it, but he doesn't have the credentials, the academic credentials that other people might be looking for. It absolutely doesn't matter. He's the expert, we look at him as the expert, and that's how it can be for you as well. So go and proclaim yourself as the expert you are. Okay, for our real estate tips this week, we're going to be talking about another one of the profit centers, and this time I'm talking about leverage. How is leverage used as a profit center? Well, it's very, very simple. When you're purchasing a revenue property, nowadays in Canada, you need 20% down to buy a property. So for simple numbers, let's say it's a $200,000 property, 20% of that is going to be $40,000. But here's where leverage comes into play. So for example, if you want to buy stocks, you want to buy $200,000 worth of stocks, how much money do you need? You need $200,000, unless you know how to do some tricky things there. But a traditional investor, you need $200,000. Mutual funds, you want to buy $200,000 worth, how much do you need? $200,000. Real estate, you want to buy $200,000 worth, how much do you need? $40,000. That's leverage. You're being financed for 80% of the value of the property. So that means, how does that come into play as a profit center? That means with a little bit of money, you can be making a lot more money. So that $40,000 that you had to come out of pocket with for cash to buy that piece of property, let's say it appreciates, the property appreciates 10% in the next year. It goes from $200,000 to $220,000. That's a 10% increase. But your actual return on your investment is much more. You're getting a $20,000 added value to your $40,000 initial investment. That's a 50% return on your investment. That's massive leverage, and that's one of the profit centers with real estate investing. Take care. Okay, so for this week's Mindset Minute, I want to talk about gratitude. Now, what does gratitude have to do with anything? It has a heck of a lot to do with anything. After I lived outside of Canada for over 10 years, 13 years I think altogether, I was living outside of the country. I lived and I visited and I traveled through a lot of very, very poor areas. I saw how the other half live, or actually more than the other half. The other 75% of the world's population lives. And I tell you, it made me so grateful for Canada and what we have and the opportunities we have here back home. So So I challenge you, when you're starting to feel down, when you're starting to feel a little bit like things aren't going your way, take a moment and step back and look at what you really have to be grateful for. Is it your family? Is it your health? Is it your business, your job? Is it the fun that you get to have on the weekend? Is it the lifestyle you enjoy? Even though you might not be at the level you want to be at yet, you've got so much to be grateful for. Just the fact that you're able to watch this, you can see, you can hear, you can experience things. Look at how many other people are not anywhere near as fortunate as we are. So gratitude, when you're starting to feel a little bit down, for me at least, is a great way to pick myself back up and get back on track. Try it too. All right, and this week we've got a question from one of our viewers, from Brian Lupachuk. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, Brian. Brian actually asked two questions, but I'm only going to answer one of them on this episode, Brian. He says, what I would like to know, very much like to know, is how I go about finding the credit score on possible tenants. So wants to do rent-to-owns or just even traditional rentals. I'm using TransUnion for a monthly check on myself to keep my own score in good credit. Okay, so very good question, Brian. How do you go about finding out a credit score on your potential tenants or tenant buyers? Well, what we do here at BC Rent to Buy, my company, my rent-to-own company, is we actually show our prospective tenant buyers how to go pull their own credit, either with TransUnion or preferably with Equifax. So we show them everything they have to do. They can go online, I think it's $23 or something like that, and they can pull their own credit. Now, why do we like to do that? First of all, it shows us if they're really serious about doing something. If they have to go to the time and trouble of pulling their own credit score, shows that they're more motivated. Also, because they pull their own credit score, it doesn't count against them. It's not a ding against their credit to pull their own score. So there's a good way to do that. If you have multiple properties already, I can't remember what it is. I think it might be something like 16 doors or something like that. You can join a service where you can pull people's credit with their permission. And I think it's like $15 a time that you do that. Otherwise, if you're in a larger center, you can become part of a landlord's association, and there may be an opportunity for you to be able to pull people's credit that way. So there's a couple of ideas for you. Okay, thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Canadian Profits TV. Stay tuned next week for our business breakthrough, we're going to be talking about LTV. What's LTV? Well, tune in next week and I'll tell you. For our real estate tip, we're going to be talking about another myth, which is that you need to work with a realtor to buy real estate. We'll bust that myth. And for our Mindset Minute, I'm going to be visiting my good friend Steve Chandler's favorite topic, or one of his favorite topics. Well, let's put it this way. My favorite topic from Steve Chandler, which is owner versus victim. Stay tuned for next week. Look forward to seeing you then.